I feel thankful when the first product that we launched at 0.9 days that have 9 million users. Now you have to figure it out what's the best way to cook your meal, cook the best meal out, your budget. And then I think that's how you do startups.
Hello everyone, welcome. David, your host here for Leverage Asia. Hello folks, welcome to Leverage Asia. Welcome to Leverage Asia, everybody. How many more unicorns can Southeast Asia sustain? Should more people be open to this kind of thing and leverage Asia in that kind of way? Or is this not meant for everybody? Hello friends, welcome to Leverage Asia. Today I have a very, very special guest for you. It is none other than Thanh. Thanh, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me for the show. It's such an honor to be here today to share about what we've learned and alongside that we build a business right here from Asia.
That's awesome. I have a lot of questions for you. I know they are going to be loving to hear from you, okay? So here we go. Who are you? And what business did you start?
So my name is Thanh. I'm the founder of 98. So 98 is a crypto venture studios based in Vietnam. We started building the first product, which is a Coin wallet, a couple years ago. Now we have 9 million users across the world. A few years ago we launched the tokens, and now it also got listed on most of the biggest exchanges in the world as well. Alongside the way, I'm also enjoying supporting other founders in Asia to build their own business.
I think people need to understand the gravity and amazingness of what you built.
I think a little bit background. I started in Vietnam. I never studied abroad, and then I grew up here. Go to university in Ho Chi Minh City. And I think back in the day I have a dream about also like everyone else I have American dream, and a lot of times I've been thinking about learning a lot about how American startups are building companies that are changing the world. It's such a huge inspirations for me. But when I look back at the current landscape in Vietnam back then, it's starting a business in Vietnam, especially tech companies that can have enough capital and enough resources to compete with other companies in America or in Korea or in other developed countries. It's super hard until we got into crypto. It's just such a open environments for anyone in the world can with just an ideas and starting building a product for on your own and then ship it into the world. I think thanks to crypto changed my life, and I think Southeast Asia is such a an area that we have a lot of user base, and people are very friendly with crypto. I think I got lucky when a lot of experience I've learned from the past startups. Now just where I can just leverage everything again and to build a good product in crypto.
How did you come up with this idea? When did it happen? What was the spark?
I've been watching one of the podcasts from Brian Armstrong, which is the founder of Coinbase, and one his big one thing that I fully align with is just action creates informations. And I think initially when I started Coin back then in 2017, I know that this is a space that I should spend more time in, and this is the biggest opportunity that I should go all in. But I don't know what kind of product I should build. So instead of jump into building a product right away, I started building communities and also doing a lot of research, sharing all this kind of research and building communities of hanging out with people, and talk a lot about building products and how to find the product market fit in crypto. I think I do that for 3 years until I started building my first product. Spending a lot of times with the communities, get into the know-how and have and building your own expertise before you're starting a product is very important. I feel thankful when the first product that we launched at 0.9 days, also which is the Coin wallet that have 9 million users now gotten success. We don't need to do a lot of things, or try a lot of things, but even the first shot that we wins. And then I think that is all based on the research and all the know-how that we have been for the first 3 years.
Back then, it wasn't so easy to come up with an idea like this. I mean, you were early, very early.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy and what kind of mindset did you have that gave you the courage to even try this?
I love my country, and I want to, and instead of just being one of the citizen that just benefit from everything that the society and also the government give us, for me, I personally want to contribute and build the future of my country. And with that, when I take a look at like the way that every big countries and developed countries grow, it's all about an export economy. And then when you talk about export economy, I think when you talk about the US, they export a lot of things, but one of the things that contribute a lot of GDP nowadays is basically technologies. With all the resources and talent we have in Vietnam, we think exporting technologies is also a very good strategies that might change the future of Vietnam as well. And I think when I take a look at all the companies that are doing in Vietnam, most of the time it's these companies is importing the tech from other countries and trying to monetize in Vietnam. Not many people are really building the technologies right here in Vietnam, especially consumer apps, and start selling it or bringing this kind of values and product into the world. And I want to change that. I think I believe this is if we can win this and we can somehow grab it up as a playbook, we can also empower inspire the next generation of founders happens right here in Vietnam.
It's some sort of giant thinking and ambition that drove you to make these decisions. Could you please take us through the process of building the first version of your product or service?
The first product of Coin9 release is Coin9 Super Wallet. We've struggled even the product is have some signs of product market fit. We're still struggling with a lot of operational and logistic and everything like that. It's we make a lot of wrong assumption.
I see.
Yep. And then I think having thanks to the community that we have built, it's sizable. I think back then it's 200,000 community members who start immediately supporting the product, and then give us the feedback. And I think the feedback from the users is a lot of truth, have a lot of truth in there. And then it's just sometimes it's proven that our assumption is wrong. So again, come back to the point that I talked earlier. So action creates information. We everything when you build a product, you build it based on a lot of assumptions that you had at the beginning. Your job as a founder is trying to find the truth, trying to find the real demand that people need, and let's assume that maybe most of the assumption that you make initially is wrong, and it's fine.
Yeah,
because everything starts as a lot of wrong assumption, and over time you just become less wrong. And I think that's how you get started. So the first version, let's assume that 100% of your assumption is wrong, but that's how the game started. The game started after you launched the first version with 100% of wrong assumption. Now you trying to figure it out. What is the most wrong assumption, and then you fix it first, and then you're trying to find, and over time your product just become less wrong and less wrong and less wrong, and over time just close to the right. And I think that's having that kind of expectation is just leave you a lot of flexibilities and freedoms, and free up mind to alongside that you build a product. Don't put a lot of emotional attach and a lot of expectation for the first version. Most of the time is wrong.
I see.
So the first, I think for me the first the main goal and of the first version is to create information.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first assumption that you use to develop the product is not important.
Okay.
What important is that get it live and be less wrong.
I see. I love action creates information.
Yep.
And for information is important. We should create a little plaque with this. Talking a little bit about your background. So are you a technical person? What kind of background did you have?
Yeah, I was a embedded system engineer, so I was an engineer. So I know how to code.
I see.
I know how to design chips. I know how to design hardware and firmware as well.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing business.
If I may pivot and ask you, how has building relationships or a business in Asia contributed, you think, uniquely to your success?
if you look back at how crypto grows, and back in 2017 until now, a lot of things happen in the developed countries. It's very controversial. They're trying to understand the technologies before they start to building or develop a regulation framework for that. And if you take a look at the demographic of a lot of users nowadays is all based in emerging markets, and especially in Southeast Asia. And I think with that, that's also the reason why no matter where you are, you build a companies, you build a products, and you have to go to Asia to promote it to the users, right? And I think we're living at the right place at the right time where everyone's in the world, even no matter that you are building the product from the US or from Europe, Australia, Korea, China, you have to go to Asia to promote the users because your product needs users.
So how do you stay ahead of trends and changes in Asia? This is something people are worried about. Asia changes so fast.
I never think it's very interesting because I never think that I have to go ahead of Asia. Everything that come up to my mind when I build a product is how can we build this and ahead of the world? And I think with crypto, we are building a technologies where I think we're into we were building a product for the technologies that even the world didn't figure it out what is the final form of it yet. And everyone's in the world are trying to find that kind of final form. And then we have played in global games since day one. And in order to compete with everyone else in the world, you have to share and have the same mindsets, and then also sharing the same thoughts as them. As an Asian companies, we also need to learn how to get into Latin America market, Africa market, Europe market, other markets as well. Everyone's playing the same game.
Then let me pivot my question a little bit. How do you stay ahead of the world? You clearly are ahead, So what is that secret?
I think I'm not sure if we're ahead of the world yet, but I think we learn a lot from a lot of builders and market participants. And I think crypto give us a very equal freedom, all the freedoms and equal and opportunities to work with pretty much every builders in the world. Talking to them, be with them, and sharing all the lessons with them, drink with them. I think all of this together, it just give you're talking the same languages, you reading the same thing, you building the same thing, you talk and share with them on the same stories. That's how you can be ahead of the world. And then I think I think crypto is such an amazing industry where I can talk to even if you are building $1 billion companies or you're building just $10 million companies, and people are still sitting in the same room and sharing the same lessons. And as long as you build things for the world, you will automatically be ahead of your regional.
Okay,
that's 100%. And also so that's from the top, but from the bottom also trying to be stay as close as as close to the community, because they are the one who give you insights on if whether or not if this product is product market fit, what is the demand that they need, and then what kind of features that you should build for them.
That's actually very insightful.
Yeah,
not top down, but also think bottom up.
Yeah,
that's actually brilliant.
So somewhere in the middle. I think too top down is just you are too far from the community, so whoever are using the product. But if you're too focus on the bottom, then you don't have a broader view on whether or not if the direction that things that I build right now is big enough.
Yeah, this makes sense to me. So then how about this? How has your experience being in Asia and being born here influenced your personal growth and leadership style?
I think that's a very good question. I think a lot of my business mindsets and skill sets I've learned from a lot of things like free stuff on the internet. That I learned English from YouTube too, right? So
you didn't go abroad to study.
Yeah, so I learned
crazy.
I learned my English from YouTube, and then a lot of business mindset and skills that I have nowadays is also learning from free stuff on on the internet. That's where I train my skills. But when it comes to the leadership, I see the difference between the Asian style and also like the American style. And I think like leadership depends on like the types of talent that you're onboarding to the team. If you are building a multinational team since day one, then is help a lot to understand about the culture of every people that you are onboarded. Not only like the personality and also like things on their own, but also like the culture of the community they belong to. I have a lot of friends that also starting companies in Vietnam, but like most of their employees is like based in the US and also like in other countries. So your leadership style is based on where your employees are. 90 right now is like companies based in Vietnam. We have like 300 people here, and that's also a challenge where how can we manage like in a like Vietnamese style, but also like train them the way to think like everyone else in the world.
I mean, that's actually very surprising yet insightful for me because when I see you, you're very global, period. But you're right. If you have 300 people here, you have to be uniquely Vietnam, but also inspire them to be global.
Yeah. Because like, if you are not like, if you're too neutral, so I mean like, if like there's different types, right? So one is like, if for my case, I've seen a lot of companies and building have a lot of employees in Vietnam who are Vietnamese, and the building culture is very Vietnamese. It's very hard and it's like impossible to go global because like the way that they think, the way that they work, it's not there. It's not there, right? So it is affect on the success of the company. So I think it's not perfect.
Okay.
But if you are too neutral, then you're just like you don't have a soul. You only have the body. And I think like you cannot build such a like strong culture without a soul.
Okay.
And then so that's the reason why I think everything should be balanced, and then somewhere in the middle where you can like take advantage of like local culture, but at the same time you can also balance it with like the global culture as well.
That's actually really, really good. It leads to the next question. So for entrepreneurs who are from the US, let's say, but they want to come to Asia, they want to come to Vietnam, what advice would you give them?
I think like, first thing come to my mind is that, they have to be here first and like trying to like spend the time and experience like themselves first. When I talk to a lot of friends, in America, these people is like, I think the last time they spent times in Vietnam or, other countries in Asia is like 10 years ago. It's way different right now. Like, so I think like, like 10 years ago, like you barely find a lot of people that can speak English, good English in Vietnam. Now you can find a lot of them. The whole country and the way that they work is also like way different as well. So you're, what I'm trying to say is like you are using the experience that you have like 10, 20 years ago to make a judgment on the business nowadays. I think it's not ideal. The best way is that before you make any judgment on like, whether or not I should like doing a business here or should I take advantage here, you have to make that judgment based on assumptions or you based on the real truth. To get that real truth, you have to be here and experience yourself.
This is true.
Yep.
Yeah. So the authenticity, you have to be here.
Yeah. Even if you don't need to spend time to live here a lot and spend a lot of times here, but at least you can like, you have to go around, you have to feel it yourself. You cannot get it on the internet.
This is
right?
True. This is
You have
true.
to talk to them. You have to experience. You have to like spend the time with them, and you have to maybe like trying some small projects, working with them, and see how it goes. I think that's how you started.
Through starting the business, have you learned anything particularly helpful or advantageous about doing this in Asia?
In some way, I think like my body is here, but my mind is also like just like living as another American. So I've seen myself as like trying to take advantage of both worlds.
Books, podcasts, resources that are most influential to you.
Yeah, I think like like the book that like changed my life, the novel books.
Yeah, great book.
I keep saying that this is the life-changing book for me. The reason is that the first 10 years I was doing business myself, some of the points from the book is not really a book. It's just like basically a tree storm.
Yeah.
And then from that tree storm, like when it translates into the book, It's just like with more information. But beside of that tweet storm, the how to get rich without luck tweet storm, I also learned more about. I listened to his podcast too, which is like I think he said Naval has a podcast called Spearhead.
Squarehead.
Spearhead.
Oh, Sparehead. I see.
And I think like that podcast like focus a lot on like teaching founders how to start, like how to help founders to becoming like angel investors.
I see.
Great angel investors. I've learned a lot from that as well. From investing. And I think on podcasts, I've learned a lot from All In podcast. From,
All In.
like,
That's a good podcast.
Yeah. So All In give me a lot of critical thinking about challenging, like how these like amazing guys think about the world, like and how the world is operating as well. So like it's just like catching up. Naval give you like all the principles, and so in some way that is also like helping you to live in a idealistic, a little bit like idealistic world. But All In podcast is just like very practical. It's just like this is what's happening right now. This is how we see it. Like this is what happened next. And it's just like a balance between idealistic and also like practical. Is like I think it's a perfect combination for me.
I mean, people are getting a lot of practical wisdom through this podcast. So we're gonna get a lot of wisdom out there, especially about Asia. So here's my last question about Asia. Then, are you looking for people in America to hire or people in America to work with, partner with? And why are you looking for these people?
I think I'm looking for nothing. And the reason I'm looking for nothing is that, I'm not kind of like, I'm not trying to like, pro like a certain types of like audience or builders. I think one thing that, like crypto teach me is that, we should give the opportunities to anyone in the world who are willing to take the, the leap and who are brave enough to contribute like a lot of time of their life to make things happen that bring the value to the society and the world. But at the same time, I also see like a lot of advantage that American builders has, and it's still missing piece of Asian builders. The amount of talents that have like that who are sitting in the U.S. right now is huge compared to the opportunities that they has. I think like their competition rate is like getting higher and higher.
Yep.
So like it means like the success rates over time for you to start a company is just getting lower and lower.
Yep.
And then at the same time, I see like a lot of like agents also trying to do the same thing as well, but in some way that they're still missing a lot of skill sets. Yeah, that still like might need a lot of time to develop, or they need to collab with like another partners that come from who have it. And most of the people who own this kind of skill set and mindset is based in the US.
Yeah.
And I think that the working style nowadays is just like kind of like integrated. Like you can be an employee, but can also be a part of the owners of the company as well through your ownership, right? So I think like we're not living a world where we have to care about the status or anything like that anymore. Everything is like working at companies also give you any companies that can give you the ownership of to own a piece of that you now becoming like kind of owners as well. So status is not important anymore. And then I think I also like not trying to incentivize people or like telling people to focus on the stated games, but instead like trying to play a positive sum game and kind of like value games where you have your own skill sets that very unique and can build a lot of things out of that skills. And if you you can like partner with a lot of people in other like even it's not in Asia, like just like somebody's in Latin America or like in Europe or in Africa, and building like sometimes like a minimum things for them. I think that's like a lot of like business opportunities and the world that we're heading to, like where the opportunity in the US like just getting harder and harder to compete.
Yep.
And then like you can also using your same skills to have a easier wins with the better rewards on other markets. And why don't we just like, take it and then partner with other partners to make that happen?
Yeah, no, exactly. And so why don't we leverage Asia, for example, these US people?
Yeah.
I love how you answer all my questions by reframing the questions.
Yeah.
Like I ask you a question and you're like so smart, and then you answer my question and then more. Like it's great. No, I think it's powerful. Last question.
Okay.
All right. What message do you want to give? What's some wisdom you want to impart on them? What message do you want to give to them?
Even like, maybe after this, like, podcast or, watching these videos, you might have like a little bit like, inspiration and motivation, and you want to like start your own business, or at least, trying to do new things right now. I think that building great things takes time, and the real wealth is take decades to build. Take that as a standard, and use it as a compass to make every decision of your life. Think about the next 10 years of the world, how it would happen, what it's look like, where are you in that future, and then you throw back and you decided on what, like, for everything that you do right now, make sure that in the next 10 years, if that happens, that you are happy to be a part of that. I think like we are living in a world where making money is like kind of like commercialized, and like we have a lot of opportunities to make the money, but building things that values and live it as a legacy, like just make your life count, is more important. And we don't know what's gonna happen to us the next day, right? So make it count.
Love it. Build legacy, make it count, because you might die.
Yeah.
No, it's great. No, I love it. Thank you very much for your time, Thanh. Folks, this was Leverage Asia. We had talked to Thanh. If you want to get in touch with Thanh, where do they look you up?
I think I have. Please follow I am Let Thanh 98 on Twitter.
Nice.
We're also like using the same handle on Threads and also on Telegram too. So excited to like connect to any one of you too who decides to start a new journey and building things for the world.
Thank you for your contribution to the entrepreneurial community and for bridging US and Asia.
Yeah, thank you, David. To get that real truth, you have to be here and experience yourself.
This is true.